Hello, SLCC faculty and academic administrators. This is Tiffany Rauskop, Chair of the Faculty Senate APAFT Committee. I have put together this hopefully brief video to provide some clarification of the intentions behind the APAFT proposed revisions to faculty evaluation documents. This process has taken on an air of confusion, and I'm hoping to provide this so that everybody's on the same page and at least that everybody understands what APAFT's intentions are. First of all, just for clarification's sake, all faculty appointment, evaluation, retention, tenure, promotion, academic freedom, professional responsibilities, and due process are the purview of three documents. The first two are the Faculty Handbook Appendices 4 and 5, and the third one is the Academic Freedom, Professional Responsibility, and Tenure Policy and Procedures. This is known as Chapter 4, Section 1.01 of SLCC Policy and Procedures. These two documents are supposed to work together to provide everything that we need in terms of these issues. One main difference between these two documents is the Faculty Handbook goes through an approval process that stops at the Executive Cabinet level, and the Tenure Policy and Procedures go through an approval process that stops at the Board of Trustees for any policy changes and sometimes goes to the Board of Trustees for procedural changes. Why is APAFT proposing to make changes to these two documents right now? The reason is because these three documents are supposed to work together smoothly in order to facilitate the faculty evaluation processes and tenure processes. But the three documents right now do not do that very well. They have significant contradictions with each other. Within the documents themselves, they're fairly disorganized. There is unnecessary overlap amongst them. And within that, there's misplacement, meaning that some items in one document really should be in the other document. A lot of the language in the documents are vague, and that has led to quite variable application across different areas of academic affairs. And that quite variable application has led to an erosion of trust amongst faculty and academic administrators. Now, the reason for these problems is not due to anyone's lack of effort. The faculty committees and the previous APAFT committees made up of faculty and academic administrators worked very hard to develop these policies while we were in the process of rolling out the new faculty evaluation process. And like Provost Sanders likes to say, we were building the plane as we were flying it. And so it's not surprising that there's a number of issues with that. My goal as APAFT chair this year has been to rectify these issues so that we can have a transparent baseline from which to have discussions about making substantive changes within the faculty evaluation process. So that is the intent, and that's what we've tried to do. There are some substantive changes that need to be addressed, and these have been long-standing or they have arisen during the past 6 months as we've been working on the changes on these documents. These are very important conversations that need to be had, and APAFT, I can speak on behalf of APAFT by saying that our committee is very much committed to having these conversations. We believe that they are all very important for the health of academic affairs and for the furtherance of developing more trust and a more collegial environment between faculty and academic administrators. Those 5 areas right now, this is not all-inclusive, but this is what we know of right now. The first one is what should be the role of the Associate Dean in faculty evaluations. Should the Associate Dean be a member of the sitting committees, or should they not be? The second one is the idea of a mid-level letter of evaluation between a letter of progress and a letter of concern. Another one that's very important is the idea that divisions and departments can have specific evaluative criteria that might be more applicable to their particular areas. Next is a developing a way for faculty to apply for salary level increases within faculty ranks. And then the last one that we've come across this year has been granting years towards tenure upon hire instead of having to apply for that after hire, so several years into the tenure track. All of these issues are very important, and we want to address all of them. We just believe that they will be better to be addressed within documents that are transparent, so we can work from them and not get confused by the language that are in the current documents that we have. That said, the primary changes to the documents, I know the documents may be confusing. They may look like there's a lot to them, so I'd like to break down the changes that we have made. So to Faculty Handbook Appendices 4 and 5, we combine them into a single document, which we're calling Appendix 4. We synthesize standards of performance in teaching, professional activity and development, and service collegiality. We synthesize those from the faculty job description in the faculty handbook, from some language in the tenure policy and procedures, and from the current faculty handbook Appendix 5, I believe. Yes, Appendix 5. We synthesized those so that they were more straightforward and easy to read and to interpret. We also categorized the levels of exceeding performance, or the types of exceeding standard professional performance. This was taken from the table that had just dozens and dozens of different examples of exceeding professional performance, and so we categorized those. We corrected and improved forms. Some forms, faculty need the forms to be completed and to be submitted so that they can have the resources and the documentation that they need to apply for tenure and for rank advancement. And that is not occurring in many cases across the college because of the vague instructions. So we corrected and improved those. We specify portfolio contents and reduce the open-ended nature of the requirements of the portfolios. We know that this is an unpopular decision because the portfolios have changed frequently, basically every single year. We realized that we were trying to do meet multiple purposes with the portfolio by using the same strategies, and the portfolio has different purposes. It has the annual tenure track and the post-tenure evaluation, and then it also has application for tenure and application for rank advancement. So we attempted to delineate between those and just close down sort of the open-ended and sort of general expectations of those, and try to provide some guidelines and framework for those. We also provided instructions for all steps of the process. This is one of the major problems of our current documents. They don't have the steps and when things should happen, basically what should happen, when things should happen, who should be responsible for them. And so that's led to a lot of the confusion, so we've provided instructions for all of that, and then we've improved readability. For the tenure policy and procedures, we removed all guideline instruction and language and placed that into the faculty handbook. It's better for it to be there so that we can make changes to that instead of having and not have to go to the Board of Trustees. We also align language with the USHE rules. Our documents are required to align with those, and there was some language in our current policy that had a particular interpretive approach that really wasn't necessary in the policy and procedures, so we made changes to that. We improved the organization and outline of that document, and we improved readability. There's been some questions or concerns that we have made the documents more complicated than they were in the past, and there's been calls to make them simpler and briefer. And so I just wanted to demonstrate to you or provide you with some information as to kind of how these types of documents are not necessarily brief across the Utah system of higher education. So what you see here on this table, and I won't go through it in great detail, is the proposed Faculty Handbook Appendix 4 and the proposed tenure policy and procedures, and aligning that with the current SLCC documents, with the University of Utah documents, Utah State University documents, and Southern Utah University documents. The documents that you see listed under those three institutions are the documents with language in them that align to the language in our handbook and our tenure policy and procedures. Hopefully you noticed that the total pages of our proposed documents is 44, and that is significantly less than the total pages of the other institutional documents. So we have attempted to clarify and to detail and to make things transparent, but also we've made great effort to be brief. Even though we have made great efforts to be brief, the documents still are long and they are complex in many ways. And so here are the sections to provide you with an overview. In the Faculty Handbook Appendix 4, we have an introduction, then we have a section on faculty appointment and rank. Next is the value and meaning of tenure, followed by the philosophy and intent of faculty evaluation. Then we have an overview of evaluation, retention, and promotion. Then we have the section on professional portfolio, which is a couple pages of instructions and then a chart to hopefully make it clear. Following that is the longest section, which is the full-time faculty evaluation process and instructions. This section provides the details that are missing to a great extent from the current documents. Then we have faculty evaluation levels and guidelines. These are the synthesized matters that I spoke of earlier. And then we have a section on tenured administrators returning to faculty. In the tenure policy and procedures, we have the policy, which is unchanged, followed by the references and definitions. And then in the procedures, we have academic freedom, standards of professional responsibility, which is primarily referenced back to the faculty handbook. Then there's the faculty appointment, evaluation, tenure, and rank advancement. This language is the exact language as is found in Section 5 of the faculty handbook. Then there's everything that follows from that are the procedures for reduction in status or termination, hearing procedures, suspension pending actions, sanctions, and resignations. On those 5 sections, we have not made any changes. The General Counsel Office's Policy Review Coordinator is looking at those sections to try to revise them somewhat for brevity, not to change any meaning, but just for brevity's sake. Some people have been advocating that we just wait and not make the changes that APAFT has proposed this year, and instead wait until we can have the larger conversations about the substantive matters that I mentioned earlier. And that is a decision that will be made at a level higher than the APAFT committee as to whether or not we wait or not. But APAFT believes that it's important. The reason that we're putting this forward is because there's a number of reasons that we should move ahead at this point, and primarily so that we can have those substantive discussions within a space of transparency instead of confusion. We believe it's necessary to fix the contradictions and the lack of clarity. The number of phone calls and questions and emails that I've received over the past year has just been nonstop because there's so much confusion. There's just way too much confusion in the current documents, and we believe that we can only improve that by moving forward now. We want to reduce the burden on faculty and associate deans as much as we can prior to having those substantive conversations. We believe that we have made changes in these documents that will reduce that burden on both parties. We want to ensure the paper trail of faculty evaluation, which, as I mentioned earlier, is not being applied consistently. We want to establish a distinctive purpose for the 2 documents, and the reason for that is because of the approval process. We want the tenure policy and procedures to be relatively settled so that we can direct our attention to the specific processes and instructions and guidelines and criteria in the faculty handbook. This year there was a legislative audit and recommendation on faculty evaluation procedures at all of the USHE institutions, and some of our changes respond to those recommendations. The college has a has an exposure to liability right now because the faculty evaluation process does lack clarity, and we want to make sure that the college is protected. And we would like to start building trust right now, which we believe having a transparent baseline from which to have these important discussions about making substantive changes is the way to do that. So we hope or I hope that this helps clarify some of the reasons that APAFT has done what it's done. We submit this to Faculty Senate for their consideration, and then we will just see where it goes. But thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this.